Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Dale Keown Day, so we are looking at the next issue in his Incredible Hulk run from the early 90s. This is issue 387, cover dated November 1991. So he and Liefeld right now are right around the same point. So at around the same time these issues would have been coming out, those early X-Force issues would have been coming out as well. Let's start with the cover. This one's interesting. It's signed not with Keown's usual signature, but just a K and an R. And I was kind of confused by that because I was looking at this. I'm like, that looks pretty close to Dale Keown's style of inking. Maybe it's a little bit rougher, not quite as clean, but I mean, it's pretty darn close. And basically by opening up the comic, I'm going to assume with the credits that answers our question. Not 100% sure, but pretty sure it will, as to who the inker here is, who is R. The actual cover, pretty cool, interesting design. They're obviously playing on the whole, the movie The Omen, right? Damien, the kind of devilish child. So that's the character we were introduced to last issue, 386. Wreaking havoc in that issue and in this one as well. That's what I get from the plot, basically. The conflict between Hulk and Sabra continues. And that's basically what the cover is meant to represent, is, you know, reminding you of the storylines from past issue. And without further ado, not so much more to say about the cover. Let's open her up, have a look inside. So again, starting with the credits, here's what's interesting. Peter David, writer, Dale Keown, penciler. Joe Rubinstein is back as inker. But either Dale Keown's, you know, really started throwing in some more detailed pencils, or Joe Rubinstein's kind of caught up to the current kind of wave of, you know, proto-image artists, pre-image artists, I guess is what you call them at Marvel, and their style of hatching. Because I do find this a lot better and a lot closer, more loyal to what I know as Dale Keown's pencils than what he was doing in and around the issues 360s and 370s when he was inking them. So the inking itself has changed drastically. Is it because of the pencils underneath being more detailed? I have no idea. But right away when I look at this first splash page, this woman's face here, the hands, even the way this... her furry cape is kind of inked, and all this hatching on the Hulk just screamed Dale Keown to me. So all of a sudden, Joe Rubinstein has brought out way more of the Dale Keown and less of the mid 80s kind of John Byrne kind of look, right? So this splash page, when I opened up, kind of surprised me. It almost looks fully Keown, if I can put it that way. Politically charged story, right? This takes place in Israel, I'm pretty sure, and it goes over the Israel-Palestinian conflict. I'm certainly not going to solve that issue, so I'm not even going to get into the politics of it. Once again, focusing more on the art generally than on the story. And especially with Peter David, you know, I know a lot of people out there really love him. That's fine. He's got some involved storylines and stuff. I read his Captain Marvel run, the Rick Jones kind of crossing over with Captain Marvel character. Thought it was interesting. It was fun, but you know, he's just not one of my favorite writers. He just isn't. And this Incredible Hulk run, I think, really stands on the merit more on Dale Keown's art than his writing. Even later on with artists like Gary Frank, and then I'm forgetting his name, the British dude. I'm going to feel bad about this. Hope it comes back to me later. But he did a good run. He's got kind of a similar style to Simon Bisley, maybe, I guess, to a certain... Liam Sharp. There we go. Liam Sharp also did some great artwork on his Incredible Hulk run. So moving on. We've got this, like I said, this politically charged story that I'm not going to touch. Storytelling is all right all the way through. Nothing to write home about. You know, I definitely think Dale Keown is spending less time on these kind of pages, the storytelling pages with more panels, and definitely more time on this. And I can't fault him for that. And again, look at this great inking on the Hulk here. This is, again, pretty darn close to Dale Keown inking himself. So Drew Rubinstein has really picked something up, or again, Dale Keown's doing some more detailed pencils here, but not everywhere. Sometimes it slips a bit and it starts to look like that 80s Marvel stuff. Not quite as exciting or interesting as, say, this shot here. But of course, that is an anchor shot for basically these 2 pages. So it has to look cool, right? Or it should look cool anyways. But I do think the dynamic action here is done really well. The kick to the face here to the Hulk. You know, seems to be holding her own against the Hulk, which is something, you know, not everyone can do that. So we'll give her props for that. And just again, interesting shots and angles. I like this angle here of the Hulk. This face once again here of the Hulk is just pure Dale Keown, right? Like this is, it's like this level of drawing, right, is not consistent throughout this whole book. It seems to be images where the inker spent a lot of time, and maybe Dale Keown and penciling spent a lot of time, and others where the artwork is more sparse, not as much detail, not as much hatching. Whereas when he gets the image, even though it probably takes him a while to take, it's not a monthly schedule by any stretch of the imagination with Pitt, but he can now pour this kind of detail into each and every panel. He's got the time to do it, right? Whether for good or bad, because, Pitt was one of those books that did have some huge scheduling problems for a while, but the artwork is definitely stellar, where here it can become slightly pedestrian on a page like this one here, right? And just look kind of like your average, 80s, early 90s Marvel page. So I'm not seeing much of the Dale Keown shine here on this page, right? It's kind of ho-hum. He's pretty good with the ladies though, always, and I do appreciate the fact that, like, he can draw, like, an in shape, shapely, beautiful woman, right? And also draw kind of more of a chubby, portly woman, and they're both convincing in their anatomy, right? Even the face here, the way the double neck and all that stuff, I think he does really well, right? Some of those artists, I think Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld struggle more with drawing people who aren't kind of, who don't have perfect anatomy and perfect proportions and stuff. It always looks a little weird, although I do like when Rob Liefeld draws the blob, but he's a man, so it's a little easier to exaggerate and pull off, maybe, or not be criticized for it. I've rarely seen Rob Liefeld draw kind of chubby characters. I guess Thumbelina would be an example, and it's all right. I mean, but she's also diminutive and probably a what's the politically correct term? A dwarf, a midget. Those are obviously not the politically correct terms. Little person, I think, is what people say. Still doing some interesting panel designs here for Marvel Comics. I'll give him props for that, and certainly not skimping on the storytelling yet. I think it's pretty consistent through his Hulk run, where the storytelling is meaty, and there's panels per page and stuff, and occasional splash pages, right? Obviously with Pitt, it gets to be more in that image mold, but we're not quite there yet. Another cool, this is the anchor shot of the Hulk here. Another great job on the inking, I think. Definitely a little bit rougher than what you would see from Keown inking himself, but I think it does flatter the pencils here. And then there's panels where I feel they're being rushed, or maybe, again, those are panels that Keown spent less time detailing, so it's left up to the inker, and it starts to look a little bit more mundane. Right, we start to lose kind of the Keown faces as well, where, like, here we have it, right? Here, not so consistent. Another great shot here that I think is pure Dale Keown, right? And the inking here really works well. These are some great detailed panels, obviously bigger as well, so more fun to draw. And another great classic Dale Keown Hulk face that definitely, is the look we're going to get on Pitt. Just even more hyper and hyped up than this here. So again, not skipping on the storytelling, the variance in the panel size and shapes, very cool. Another great Hulk anchor shot. And these last few pages, again, doesn't skimp on the storytelling, but I think the art kind of loses out a little bit. So other than maybe this shot here of this guy's face, I feel like a lot of the rest of the drawing I couldn't necessarily clearly identify as Dale Keown. It just has a slightly more mundane Marvel house style look. So I guess in this issue specifically, it's the consistency of the art that kind of wavers for me, and that, I don't enjoy so much. Interesting use of, scratchy panel borders for this flashback sequence here. Clearly a reference to the Nazi Holocaust. That's a trope that we haven't heard too much about. That was sarcasm. Yeah, just another kind of lackluster page. Looks like any old Marvel comic to me. really would have trouble identifying this as Dale Keown, other than maybe some of his compositional choices, like this panel here. I feel is there's something kind of identifiable as Dale Keown there. And we've got Pantheon here once again, and I've said it before, these are some of the least interesting characters I've ever read, and that I really want nothing to do with. So we'll just move on and talk about next issue. We've got Speed Freak, which, if I remember from the cover, already looks way more interesting than what's happening in here, and I'm pretty sure that's a Dale Keown design as well, so we'll talk more about that aspect of it next week when we review issue 388. This was issue 387, though, of The Incredible Hulk. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, let me know in the comments below. To those of you who are still subscribed and are watching the videos, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Those who are not subscribed yet, please do so. It helps the channel, helps get us out there, and give us more visibility throughout the comic book community, and gets us out there to people with like-minded interests. So thank you so much, and everybody out there, have an awesome day.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.